Hello, welcome to another Verbling class. We'll get started shortly once students arrive in the class. Tonight's class is about conversation. We're going to talk about Donald Trump. This takes us to the United States. And what is the year before a presidential election? Hello, what's your name?
My name is Luba. Hello.
Hello, Luba. Where are you from?
Russia.
I thought you might be. It looks like the Russian language there.
Yes, it's Russian letters, Russian name. I'm not that good with gadgets. I don't know how to change it to.
That's okay. What part of Russia are you from?
I'm from St. Petersburg, so it's like north, south, no, west, no, north and west. I don't know.
So you're getting ready for winter then, or winter has already arrived?
No, we're still waiting because right now we don't see any snow. It's raining. Right now it's raining, and so it's warm.
Yeah, we've kind of got the same climate here. There should be snow, but it's not. It's warm. It's not raining, but it's still warm.
Where are you from?
Canada.
Canada.
Second coldest country in the world.
Oh, great. But still, not these years, I guess. Right?
Well, winter hasn't really had a chance yet. So we've only had 2 months of winter, October and November. December's only a week away, or we're only a week into December.
What about last year?
It was the same last year. It was very warm. October was nice. November was nice. December was nice. January was nice. And then the third week of January, it got very cold. And it stayed cold till May.
Because here it was warm up to February, I think. We don't have snow during the New Year, so.
Yeah, same here. Oh, got another few students joining us. Hello, Amp.
Hi, teacher. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. My son's sick again.
Wow, you are playing turn. He is sick, then you, then he. What's going?
Yeah, that's why I'm doing 3 classes tonight. So that way, if I'm sick the rest of the week, I don't have to worry about it. So, and that's why this class will end at 55 because I have a private lesson. And then right after that, I have another class back here again. All right, and Pedro. Hello, Pedro.
Hi, Simon.
Pedro, where are you from?
I'm from Brazil.
Brazil?
Yeah, and you?
Canada.
That's good. Good for you.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's cold for me.
Okay.
Not so good.
Yeah,
Well,
I studied Brazilian that he lived in Canada for 10 years.
No, so you're familiar with Canada.
Yeah, he lived there.
Well, excellent. Well, Pedro, we're not going to be talking about Canada tonight. So what are we going to talk about tonight? We're going to talk about Donald Trump. He's been in the headlines a lot recently in the United States. The United States is having an election next year in November. Unlike any other country that I'm aware of, these guys take about 2 years to have an election. They go through this elaborate process of choosing somebody, and the election doesn't happen until next November, but already we're in this big process of, or they're in the big process of trying to find somebody to lead the Republican Party. So we've got a few candidates. Donald Trump is one of them. He is a property developer. He's a billionaire. And he said some very interesting things. And the purpose of today's class is to talk about this guy. What are your thoughts on him? What are your thoughts on the U.S. election? So we're going to be talking about characteristics of people, beliefs, and elections. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off by giving each of you 1 minute of talk time. When that time is up, you'll hear the sound. You must stop talking when you hear that sound. This is my way of ensuring everybody has a fair amount of talk time. So I'm going to start with Nuba. Have you heard of Donald Trump?
Yes, I have heard something about him. I know that he's rich, and actually that's all I know about him, because I do not watch news. I don't have a TV at home, and I don't read magazines. I mean business magazines. But I think that he's one of the man who knows what he wants, and he goes in the direction he wants and achieves his goals. And I know that during his life he had some crisis when he was poor because of this crisis, but still he had strength to stand up and go on.
Thank you. So yeah, he was bankrupt at one point, but not for very long. He's a man of great means. He's a billionaire. He has a lot of wealth and a lot of power and a lot of control. So he's been very successful.
Yeah, but it talks a lot about his characteristic as a person, a strong-willed person.
Very strong-willed, and we're going to talk about that tonight. Thank you. Pedro.
Okay.
Donald Trump, tell me about him.
Yeah, actually, I've never heard about him.
You haven't?
Yeah.
Have you heard about the United States?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So things that go on in the United States, do they impact Brazil?
Of course. I believe that things are going with United States impact all of the world. So the price of the dollar, and I believe all of the politics about the United States impact Brazil and all the world that I said. Well, as I said, so I believe it's, if you want to be a politic in United States, especially, you need to know exactly what you want.
Thank you. Good evening, Edson.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. What can you tell me about Donald Trump?
I don't know this guy. Who it is? Who is he?
Who is he? Well, he could be the next president of the United States.
Nice. I hope so. I hope that maybe change something in the United States, because you know Brazil depends on the United States, the economy, and if he changed something for good, probably our economy is gonna improve or not. I don't know what will be the impact of the next president in the United States. But I hope that he may contribute, make does a lot of contribution for the United States and the world as well. Many other countries, they
Thank you.
depends on them.
So, well, let's look at things for a minute here. The United States is a member of the World Trade Organization, a member of NATO, a member of the G7. It has a lot of influence, even with countries it hasn't traditionally gotten along well with, such as China, Soviet Union, now Russia, Cuba, North Korea. So whoever leads the United States can really help set the tone for the world because they are a large actor. They play an important part. Whether we like it or not, it is a fact. In the chat area there, I've pasted several news articles from the last month talking about Donald Trump, and if you take a look at those, you'll understand why we're going to talk about him today. He said some very interesting things, but before I summarize some of the things he said, the most recent things he said, I want to see what AMP has to say about this unique individual. AMP, what can you tell us about him? All right, AMP is not there, so we'll skip that. In the next round, I'm actually going to pair you guys up with each other, and you're going to have a conversation discussing it. So let's look at some of the articles here. Recently,
I have sorry. I'm sorry. I'm using a tablet and I don't know how to
you won't be able to
view
see
the chat.
You won't be able to see the chat, unfortunately.
Okay.
Recently, Donald Trump has said that. Well, let me quote him directly. I don't want to misquote here. You guys thinking I'm saying this? Well, no, this is not the latest one, but this is another one. So, and I quote, "The U.S. has become a dumping ground for everybody else's problems." And this is assuming that everybody else is creating problems to the U.S. and not the U.S. creating problems for others. So it's his point of view that the U.S. is a dumping ground for everybody else's problem. Now, I want you to listen to what he said next. And I'm going to quote this exactly, okay? This is not me saying this. When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. And he goes on. Now, recently what he said what has been considered almost as offensive or even more offensive, depending on your point of view. So what he's recently said that is let me read here from the news article, and this is from the New York Times. This is not from some unheard of newspaper. And it starts off, denounced in Washington and Europe, but defended on conservative talk radio, Donald J. Trump on Tuesday stood by his call to block, I repeat, to block all Muslims from entering the United States. Now, he did go on to say that if you're a U.S. citizen, no, it doesn't apply. It's to anybody that are not a U.S. citizen. They'll be blocked from entering the United States if they're a Muslim. Okay? This isn't the first time he's said some things that are what some would consider to be outrageous, outlandish. So this is interesting. For a politician, usually politicians don't say such things. Okay, so what I would like to do now is I want to give you guys 4 minutes of talk time. So it might seem like a lot of time, but it's not. Don't take up all the time. Make sure your partner has a fair amount of time to discuss this. So again, we're talking about Donald Trump, but we're also talking about the election process in the United States, and so anything related to that. You can even tie it to things in your own countries, elections or strange candidates that you might have in your own country or figures that are larger than life. So I'm going to start with Pedro and Luba.
Yeah.
So go ahead, guys. You have 4 minutes. Again, once you hear the chimes, time is up.
Let the man start.
Go ahead, Pedro. Are you listening?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Could you repeat, Lina?
Luba.
So, as I said, I don't know much about Donald Trump, but I was reading about him right now, and there's a website in Brazil that he said 10 phrase and it's very impact. So one of one of his phrases means he he wants to know to block all of the immigrants to get in the United States. I don't know if I am right. So about it, I think it's very wrong way to do uh, anything because if you block every people, maybe your economy could how do I say uh,
Suffer.
yeah, suffer, yeah, and it's a big problem. So in my opinion, he has good things to introduce in the United States, but some phrase of him it's very hard to accept. But as I said, I don't know much about
Luba a
him.
chance to speak. Remember what I said? You've only got a limited amount of time, so give Luba a chance.
Um, shall I say something now?
Yes, please do.
Okay.
You're used up.
So, Pedro, I totally agree with you that blocking the country will affect the economy, not in a good way. But I think that we have to see the silver lining here in keeping traditions and keeping something to Americans. Like, of course, we have to tolerate other nations, but I guess what he wanted to say is that in America, not many Americans really left. Like I have it now in Russia, especially in Moscow and St. Petersburg. If we go out and ask if you are from Russia or if you are from St. Petersburg, I guess like 50% will be not them. And sometimes we have to know where to stop, and sometimes we have to understand that we can destroy the traditions, we can destroy the culture by letting lots of immigrants to come to our countries. It doesn't mean that we have to stop, but we have to know better whom to, not whom to and to know, but we have to know the time when to stop, or do not let immigrants destroy our culture. And if we let immigrants come to our country, then we have to increase
Sorry, time is up.
loving our country.
Sorry, time is up. Now, one thing I want to remark on here is, you guys didn't hear me. I want you to make sure that you don't take up all the talk time. The reason it's called conversation is I want you guys to communicate back and forth. One person listens, one person speaks, and you go back and forth. Try not to take more than about 10 or 15 seconds or 20 seconds. And then you'll find that you'll have more of a conversation instead of waiting for your turn to speak. Okay, next, Pedro and Amp.
Okay, so yeah,
Well,
I agree.
I think that
Okay.
I think that this guy, the is trying to take publicity for free, just telling all these comments. Unfortunately, the medias are playing his game. I think that if he want to be a president, he cannot be so stupid to say these racist comments, and because he knows that the any nation needs to have a business with the rest of the world. So with these comments, he is not going to to gain the more votes. I think so. What do you think about this? Pedro, are you there?
Yeah, I agree with you because in Brazil, for example, there is a man. He's doing exactly what this Donald Trump is doing. He speaks many things about economy, and I believe he wants to get vote. So sometimes I think this person wants just to get votes to introducing how do I say polemics. So it's
Yeah,
just my
yeah.
opinion.
I think yes, his strategy is that controversy and well, unfortunately, the media's are giving him space. But
Yeah,
I finally, when the time for elections is coming, I don't think that he is going to win. Maybe the internal elections in the Republican Party, maybe, but I don't think that in the presidential elections he is going to win. He is a businessman, and his interests are just taking the like the US is a big company, and he's doing just an investment now, trying to play the president.
yeah. Maybe I they the media, as you said, the media hear hears this guy because he bring audience. So I think, as you said, when the how do I know, when the people know exactly what he wants to do with the United States, for example, they don't vote on him, I believe.
Well, like the teacher said, he is leading the statistics. But yeah, in between the intention of voting and what finally you do, at the end, who knows what is going to happen? Um,
Thank you. So, yes, Donald Trump is out in first place by a significant margin. There's a pretty good chance that he might claim the position of leader of the Republican Party. We won't know till March. Now, what's interesting with something like this, when you have a politician that is so outspoken and that isn't hiding behind platitudes or soft words, usually politicians won't say the things that he says, even if they believe it, because it will lose them votes. He's speaking very frankly, and when asked, did he really mean what he said, he will say yes. And he said some pretty rude things, too. So it's quite remarkable that, and a lot of people are surprised because of the things that he has said and that he is so popular. Now, in the United States, a couple of things have happened recently. There was a mass shooting. Now, this happens to be classified as a terrorist shooting. But one interesting statistic I was watching on ABC News is in the last year there have been 355 mass shootings. It's an everyday occurrence in the United States. More people die every year in the United States from guns than have from terrorist actions in its history. 10,000 people a year die from guns in the United States, and there's no civil war going on. people are apprehensive about this. It's on the news. It's on all the 24-hour news stories, and people are panicking. There are literally lineups at gun stores, people buying assault rifles. The economy isn't doing so well. A lot of people are worried about their jobs. There's a lot of fear right now. And there's a fear of those from outside the country coming in. There's a fear of Muslims, not by all, but by a large enough segment that Donald Trump has said he would stop the entry of all Muslims into the United States. I don't know how you could prove that, because country of origin does not mean religion. You can be from Israel and be Catholic. You can be from Russia and be Muslim. You can be from the United States and be agnostic. Being from any one country does not guarantee you being that faith. So I don't know how he would enforce it. Okay. So let's see. Next we will have... Well, I'm going to switch things up. Anna just came in the room, so let's see. I'm going to have Pedro. Oh, who just spoke? It was Anna and Pedro. Oh no, sorry, Amp and Pedro, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have Pedro and Luba. Again, guys, you have 4 minutes. Okay? So again, the purpose of this, okay, Anna, the purpose of this class is to talk about Donald Trump, but we can also use this to talk about other outspoken politicians. They could be people like Lulu in Brazil, in Canada, Trudeau. Now, each of these have been outspoken, but been known for different things. Guys, you have 4 minutes. Go ahead, Luba and Pedro.
Okay, Pedro, I have a question to you. Right now we hear about Donald Trump saying that Muslims or other people can be a trouble, can be a problem to USA. And I think that sometimes if we have a problem, we try to find somebody whose fault it is, and we do not look inside and do not try to think that the problem is inside us. What do you think about this statement?
Yeah, as I said, I believe sometimes when other people get in your country, they can distract, or I don't know, but I believe that if you want to grow up your country, you need to get other ways to how do I say, to develop your country. I don't know. He's a billionaire guy, and he knows how to develop a company, but I don't know it will work in a country in the same way. But I was reading Trump's phrase, and he said that he wants to
Hey, give Luba a chance too, Pedro. Don't take all the talk time.
okay.
I just wanted to ask you, don't you think that sometimes it's easier to be in a box and to block yourself from the world and not to try to find the reason inside you? Like if we have an ill tree, sometimes it's easier to cure the roots, not to try to cure the leaves. And here it's what Donald Trump doing now. Is I think he's trying to block the country, but he's not trying to understand the reasons inside the country.
Yeah, yeah. because black, of course, is easier than understand the whole problem.
It's easier to find the victim.
It's us
Yeah.
versus them.
What?
It's us versus them.
What do you mean by that?
With humans, we seem to have this us versus them. There's us. And who is us? Well, that's people, that's me, my family, or people like me, similar interests. We are a group. We are a family unit, a village, a community. And them are those that are against us. They might be thieves, criminals, might be other cities, sporting events. It's us against them, different cities, might be different countries. And if you look in the world, like look at Germany and England during World War II, it was us against them. It's those Germans, right? It was those British. Well, once that war was over, it was pretty simple to see it wasn't us versus them. In Germany, it was those Nazis, or the SS, and a few select few that were causing problems. When we have a conflict or we want to create trouble, it's easy for us to think of us versus them. But in order to solve the problem, we have to get past us versus them and look at the issue and try to resolve it.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. May I say?
Yeah, I talked for a little bit, so I'll give you another 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Thanks. That's what I'm talking about. It starts from the childhood. If we put inside our child's brain that it's us versus them, that it's us versus world, then he will grow up with that worldview, and he will share it with their children, with his children. And if the whole nation will think that way, then we'll have a war at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about creation, a world where people, not against another people, but working as a team, you know?
I know, and you're probably aware of this, but the United States and Russia are much closer to a conflict than they've ever been.
Yeah.
You have to go back to the 60s. And you know what? It's really a couple of individuals that are dictating the fate of hundreds of millions of people.
Yeah. That's why I don't vote.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame you, but you know, just having this conversation here, none of us want to have a conflict, but you see, it's always looked at us versus them, because it's easier to score points when you do us versus them. When you look at the issues, I mean, look at what's going on in the Middle East right now, the downing of the jet and all this. You've got so many nations in one area, and nobody is controlling communications or command and control. Nobody's working together. And it's not surprising that there's been some conflict in what we would normally consider to be allies.
Because we do not teach our kids to work together. I don't know what happens now in Canada, but here in Russia, when we're at school, even like first grade or kindergartens, they are all, you know, competitive. We compete a lot. Okay, I talk too much. I'm sorry.
And I do have to stop you, but you're right. Look at Canada and Russia in hockey, how fiercely we compete with each other. But I must yield the floor to Amp and Anna.
Yes, that's why I stopped myself.
Yeah, thank you. So, Amp and Anna, I'd like us to kind of continue with this whole idea of us versus them. And when it comes to solving issues, us versus them no longer works. We have to think differently than us versus them. And I'm wondering, is Donald Trump more or less just taking the approach of us versus them? What do you guys think?
Sorry, I can barely hear you the last part. I think my connection is... Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Hello, Ampin. It's nice to
Hi.
talk
Nice
to
to see you
you.
again. Yeah.
Yes. Uh, he was saying that Donald Trump is taking a position like us against them. And well, I think there are 90 controversial topics brought by Donald Trump, you know. The first one is this xenophobic vision that
Yeah,
he has, you know, prohibiting uh, people to
immigrants.
enter
Yeah,
in the country, uh, you know. Um, well, it's a speech full of hate and to oversee, I don't know how to call in English, mosquitoes and torture people. It's
most. Hmm.
another, uh, how can I call
The most.
the mosques? Yes, overseeing mosques and torturing suspects of terrorism. The wall that he has talking about, the mass deportation, his talk with Putin, his conditions imposed to China, and all those things, you know. The
Yeah, yeah. I think that according to him, there have a different rate, but he has to know that most of the countries have a mix of people with different origins. Even he is not a pure race because he natives Americans were living in there when probably his ancestors arrived there. So how can he classify? He is he's an immigrant. He is most of the American people now um, are related with some the Latin American in some way because they have been married with them, and then there is no
yes,
a pure race anymore.
I couldn't agree more. And he's not thinking that the population of the United States is made of immigrants. You know,
Yeah,
the U.S. Started because British people were trying to escape for from the religious persecutions and so forth. It's a
and
very xenophobic speech, and it's awful because it reminds me Hitler somehow.
yeah, and most of the people that it are immigrant from the South America and from India, for example, there are the people that are working on at the companies, so they are the force that they need to increase the economy in the U.S. So yeah, yeah, so it's absurd what he is saying.
Very absurd. Well, some would say very absurd. Others would say it's a breath of fresh air. He's finally saying the things that I believe in. He's looking to defend America. He's looking to stand up for us, to protect us. Really?
Protect of what?
Well, and that's it too. Got to remember, guys, and we had this class a few weeks ago about hate. What creates hate? Well, it usually starts with fear. And when you have as many shootings that happen in the United States, and this is the first one that I'm aware of this year, or actually since 9/11, where it has not been an American, but it's been somebody who's been of the Muslim faith, and that has done this for terrorist reasons. So I don't know how many people were affected by this, maybe 30 people, but keep in mind 10,000 people a year die from guns in the United States. Terrorism is not their biggest problem. In fact, for Russia, Canada, France even, terrorism isn't our biggest concern. What is our biggest concern? Well, it changes from country to country, but for some of us it's healthcare. Others, it's clean water. Look how many people die in the world each year for lack of water or clean water, or lack of health care. How many people, in fact, die from car collisions? The amount of people who die each year from terrorist activities is very, very minor. Yet look at all the legislation in the United States and other countries where now we have government surveillance. In the West, we used to talk about communist countries, how they spy on their own people. We used to be so proud of ourselves. Well, nobody is spying on their own people more so than capitalist countries. In fact, the United States has been spying on everybody, if you've been watching the news. All right, next we have Luba and Pedro. And guys, I'd like you to continue your conversation. Remember, us versus them, a little bit of discussion on fear. To take the conversation where you'd like to go. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Pedro, don't you think that by saying such words, he triggers that idea? He makes people talk about this and make people think about hating other countries. And that's the easiest thing to do, so he gives people that idea to think about and to make it stir, boil, actually. What do you think about it?
I'm sorry, I didn't get it. Phrase.
Could you please repeat?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. By saying these words,
Yeah.
saying that, sorry, I lost the thought. Saying such words, he makes people think about this idea us versus them, idea about hating others, about not being tolerant, and he makes people have discussions about that, and the more they speak about that, the more they believe to that idea.
Okay. Yeah, as I said before, I don't believe to terminate it's the best way to do the things, because I've never been in the US, but I know if you go to Miami, there are many Brazilians and Spanish or people that can speak Spanish. So US, it's a kind of a country, a mixed country. So if he wants to exterminate the immigrants, it would be very hard, and I don't know if you would be intelligent of his part, because
Not that hard as you might think.
yeah.
You know, I have been to States. I spent there 3 months, and the thing I noticed there, it's the thing I don't notice here in Russia. The people I was surrounded with, I can't tell about all Americans, but the people I was surrounded with, they were proud to be Americans. They loved their country, and they didn't want to change it for another country. And it shocked me actually, because here in Russia we most of all are not proud to be Russians. And so I think the more people fear that immigrants can destroy, the more votes will get Trump. Don't you think that he thinks about it?
Yeah, I think the Americans fear it's not about the immigrants, but because I believe if you if if the Americans, if any American city is danger, for example, it's not because there are many immigrants, and so
Thank you, Pedro.
okay.
Okay, so an interesting thing. Luba brought up the United States, how a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people think it's the best country in the world. And whenever you're in a conversation with an American that believes this, well, the question then usually follows up with, well, why? Why do you believe it's the best country in the world? Some people say freedom. Well, I'm sure there's at least another 100 nations in the world that have freedom. In fact, you're more free in other countries than the United States, as it is now. You can be arrested, and if you're charged with anything terrorist-related, they don't have to let you go. They can hold you. So there are other countries where you have more freedom. Well, then they might say, well, rights. Well, yes, you've got a lot of rights, but so do a lot of other countries. Healthcare. Well, you know, there are other countries where they have better healthcare, better affordability of healthcare. Okay, so what other things do they talk about? Well, why the U.S. is better? Well, chance to make money. Well, yes, you can make a lot of money in the U.S., but you can make a lot more in China. There are probably more millionaires in China than the entire population of the United States. Well, we're the most powerful country in the world economically. Well, not so true anymore. China's actually tied with the U.S. Well, we're the most powerful country in the world militarily. Well, yes, you are. But you also have the most amount of murders for a country not at war. You also have the greatest amount of conflicts going on. You know, why is it the best country in the world? And Americans ask me, well, you must think Canada's the best country in the world. I said, well, no, not necessarily. The best country in the world is a country that meets my needs. I'm a citizen of the world first. If Canada goes and turns out bad and bad things happen, I will leave. Just like my family left England. We'll look for the best place for us on the planet. I'm not a blind citizen to my own country and think, well, I'm a proud Canadian until my death. Well, no. If my government turns against me, I will turn against my country. I will leave. And I've left before. But you do get a lot of that blind patriotism, and when you have blind patriotism, that's what creates problems. That allows leaders to get their people to stand behind them for military action, even when it's against the people's best interests. People can be starving and support their leader because it gets their minds off things, and they think that that person can help them. When you look at it, all militaries have fallen. Germany, Hitler fell. Soviet Union collapsed. United States, well, it's declared bankruptcy at least 3 times in its history. Greece, one of the first civilizations, failed. Egypt, civilization failed. Holy Roman Empire failed. I forgot the name of this empire. The Turk or the Ottoman Empire, it failed as well. And even China, one of the most richest countries in terms of culture and history, has collapsed a few times. So we've got about 7 minutes left. What I want to do is give each of you 2 minutes to sum up your thoughts. I will be ending the class right at 55 because, like I said, I've got other classes, and I want to be able to go get some water, check on my son, and then be ready for my next class. You guys can come back if you want. In an hour from now, I will have another class at that point, another conversation class, only this time. Legalizing marijuana, pot, weed, that stuff. That's what we're going to talk about. So, 2 minutes. Luba, go ahead.
Oh, so today we were speaking about Donald Trump, about his speeches and his desire to be a president of America very soon. And he speaks about blocking the USA from immigrants and from Muslims because he could see the problem, some things bad which they can do for America. But we have to think differently. We don't have to think about the idea us versus them. We don't have to compete a lot. And also, I think the great problem in our life is feeling the fear. And if you feel fear, if the whole nation feel fear, it means that it will be easier for a leader to show them the way where he wants them to go. And especially if you have a blind patriotism, then you can't understand what you do. You just do it for your country, as many nations did previous years. And I think, yes, fear is the root of hate. And if there is a hate, there will be the war. And if it's with the war, people do not think. They just do what leader wants them to do. And it's not a human being anymore. It's like a sheep. Like, I don't know, cattle? Oh, how do we call that?
Or lemmings.
What?
Look up lemmings. They're mindless creatures that will just follow each other off a cliff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Luba.
It's time to wake up.
It is time to wake up. And we lost Pedro, but that's okay. We've got Anna. Anna, your final thoughts, please.
Okay. I don't like Donald J. Trump's speech, you know. He is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States, and I think almost everything that he says is controversial, and I've been seeing people raising campaigns against Donald Trump online. One woman from the US called the White House opinion line, and she spoke to a volunteer who took her message and thanked her, and she asked that the current president speak out publicly on against this kind of rhetoric from Donald Trump. You know, she was raised in Miami, and she personally knows a lot of Holocaust survivors, Muslim and immigrants, and people that she has a life that she is not normal on her eyes, but she better than the alternative. And I don't like this kind of speech, you know, against a race by pointing out all Muslims and say that they are terrorists. Because you have students, Simon, you have students that are from those countries, students that are Muslim. Do you think that?
And you know what, Anna, I really wish we had some students here that were represented from those countries, because it would provide a more dynamic conversation. My neighbors, my friends of all different backgrounds. I consider myself an immigrant here in Canada. And I wish I had more time, but unfortunately I've got to hand it over to Amp. And Amp, I hope you don't mind. I've only got to I got to drop your time down to a minute because I talk too much. But I've got to get ready for my next class. I'll make it up for you in the next class.
No worries, no worries. It's okay. Well, yes, this guy. I hope he won't be the president in the U.S. I think there is a lot of people that is coherent in the U.S. and they are not going to permit this guy in the presidency. He tries to yeah, to create a fear to people, and saying that the others are a threat for them, for the security, of the U.S. But if you analyze, they have a death penalty, and the control again is not working, and the thought that this guy have about global warming is also a thing to think. It's he said that the global warming is just something natural for the weather, and nothing is happening, and he is against his
I
interest.
hate to stop you, I really do, and
Yeah,
we need to
it's
bring
okay.
back another conversation on global warming too, especially with what's happening in Europe. But guys, I will be back here in an hour for my last class tonight. Hope you can make it. Thank you so much for attending, and we'll talk soon.
Bye.
Teacher,
Thank you
take
very
care.
much.
Bye, girl.
Bye-bye.